I think I did it right. I think I made it. We are live on YouTube. Welcome. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to join me. I'm going to get situated here with my water and my notes and my cats and see how it goes. All right, so if you are new to my channel, welcome. And if you are a regular, welcome back. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. This week was a little different, so I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds to join me. I'm going to drink some water, and I'm going to see how many of you can see me this week compared to my normal week. So bear with me here. I appreciate your patience. I am Mary at marysheirloomseeds.com, and I try to go live here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time. Today's a little bit of a different topic. We're going to talk about grow lights. We're going to talk about growing indoors. Very brief about growing indoors. Hey, Caitlin, thanks for joining me. So we had a question. I had a question about grow lights specifically. The question was lumens, watts, what's the deal? What are we going to do? So, of course, I wanted to share with you my thoughts and my information. Now, I'll tell you this. If you go online and you Google grow lights or you Google growing indoors, you are going to find hundreds, if not thousands of resources about ways to grow and how to grow and what to use, recommendations on all the different things. Just like if you asked a tomato farmer how to grow a tomato from seed, you ask 10 farmers, you're going to get 15 different answers because there are so many different factors. There are so many different options depending on where you are, what you're growing, and how you want to grow it. So I got a couple examples here, just two of them, but super simple and super easy. I wanted to share way more than that with you tonight. So stay tuned. I hope you join me. Stay with me here. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. And also comment. Tell me where you are. Tell me what you're doing and tell me what you're growing. Or maybe just tell me what you want to grow for 2025 because there are so many different options. Baker, one of you says, I'm interested in growing indoors and would like to try microgreens. I live in the desert, so summer is very hard. Stay tuned. Definitely stay tuned. Baker Wannabe, I am going to share some options for you about growing microgreens indoors. Whether it's summer, winter, spring, fall, literally year-round, you can grow microgreens, and I'll share that with you during the video. All right, so tips for grow lights, tips for growing indoors. So specifically, I'm going to talk about seed starting indoors. I am not necessarily talking about growing from seed to harvest indoors. If you look online, like I mentioned earlier, hey Jennifer B, thanks for joining me. You're going to find a ton of information specifically about growing cannabis because cannabis farmers typically grow from seed to harvest indoors. I don't have a problem with that. I grew up in California. It's a normal thing there. In your area, it may not be normal, but I want to say that what they are growing from seed to harvest indoors is not necessarily what you need for growing seed to transplant outside in your garden. So I've seen some of these seed starting setups where it includes a tent and lights and a charcoal filter and all these other things. And you're talking about a $350 to $799 and more. So you're talking about $350 to $800 investment up front. You don't need to spend that kind of money just to get your seeds started indoors to transplant outside. And that is one thing I want to talk about right up front. It does not have to be an extremely expensive endeavor to start your seeds indoors. I'm talking about growing from seed to transplant, not seed to harvest indoors. Wanted to throw that out there right in the very beginning. A couple of factors that are super important are going to be position of your plants close to your light. One of the things that people reach out to me quite often is they are growing their seeds in a sunny windowsill and they get really long and lanky and they're not very healthy. And that is called being leggy seedlings. And so a seed light or a light indoors would be really helpful for your seeds. If you are struggling with indoor seed starting, please continue to watch this video. You want to make sure you adjust the height of your light while you're growing indoors to match the plants as they grow. These are just a couple of tips to get started before we go into all of the information. Hey Jenny, thanks for joining me. Then you have to monitor your soil moisture. You have to monitor your soil temperature, and you want an average of 8 to 16 hours of light a day, depending on what you are growing. Stay tuned for specifics on that information because that's a big range. 8 to 16 hours. Come on, we got to have a more specific answer. I will share that with you as well. Now, LED versus fluorescence. Let's start with that as before we even get started on all of the specifics on temperature, timing, everything else. We're going to talk about LEDs versus fluorescence. The most simplest answer to that, hey Shirley, thanks for joining me. We're going to talk about T5 fluorescence. They are a very common light for indoor seed starting. Super common. This right here, this is my favorite. It's a T5 fluorescent. Now, I'm not going to specifically endorse anything like you have to buy this. I'm just going to say that this one in particular is my favorite just because of the price, the size, and the output of the lights. And price, obviously, because I don't want to spend a fortune to grow seedlings when I could literally plant my seeds outside. For this in particular, I want to get a jump start on planting outside. Fluorescent lights are generally more inexpensive than an LED light, but the bulbs cause problems as far as disposing of the bulbs because they can be an issue with any kind of whatever is in the fluorescent light. Depending on what state you're in, sometimes they don't allow fluorescence anymore, which is just whatever, super weird. I'm not gonna even go there. But fluorescent lights can also burn a little warmer, a little hotter than an LED. So if you are growing indoors with a fluorescent light, you might want to add a fan to your grow light setup. But you're growing in a garage that might be a little cooler, or you're growing in a shed that might be a little cooler, then those fluorescents being more warm might actually work out to your benefit. Now, then LED bulbs are generally last longer. The equipment is generally a little more expensive. So it's kind of a give and take. You got to figure out what is going to work best for your situation. So the LED setup is a little more expensive up front, but overall it might last a little longer. And LED bulbs burn a little cooler than a fluorescent. So again, it just depends on your setup. I have seen, hey Alicia, thanks for joining me. I've seen massive setups, like an entire greenhouse setup. I've seen smaller setups like a grow tent, which we have 2 different sizes of grow tents here on my property that I've used. And I've seen just a simple countertop setup. So my information tonight is going to be a broad spectrum. We're going to talk about literally growing on your cabinet, or I should say on your countertop under a cabinet to inside of an actual grow tent. And we're going to go everywhere in between. If you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and also tell me what you're growing and tell me what your setup is like. Do you grow indoors? Do you grow outside exclusively? Do you start your seeds indoors and then transplant out? Or do you just start your seeds maybe even on a back patio and then transplant out because maybe you don't need a light? If you're in a place like Florida, for example, you probably don't need a grow light. If you're in a place like California, for example, or Southern California, I should specify, you probably don't need a grow light. I've been using indoor seed starting setup since about 2018. 2015 probably. But more specifically, like being more specific about what I'm growing inside and indoors for a shorter period of time. So I mentioned in my live chat on Facebook that I talked to my husband about this stuff because he's way more science specific than I am, and he's got he's like a wealth of knowledge as far as lumens, wattage, growing indoors, growing outside, like light requirements and things like that. So it's super awesome that we can kind of collaborate on this information. And then, of course, I'm the face of Mary's Heirloom Seeds, being Mary. So I'm the one that goes live on the video to share the information. Jenny says, I grow on my patio indoors. Kristen says, everything outside. Need a course on that and inexpensive materials. So tonight I'm going to talk about inexpensive materials for sure. This is an excellent way to plant your seeds and grow on a budget. I prefer not to grow on a windowsill. Jennifer B, you might have a great setup for a windowsill. It's our weather here's a little different. Every now and then we get some warm weather. Every now and then we get some cold weather. It's going to be 29 degrees tonight, but it's going to be a high of like 72 on Christmas here. So it's just a weird year here. All right, so let me talk about lumens versus watts before we talk about grow light specifics. Now, that was the main question before I started this whole quest for this video. I'm surrounded by cats, by the way. So if you're wondering why I'm looking all around, I'm trying to guard my water because literally I got like, ever seen that scene on Jurassic Park where the guy's like hands out and he's got like 5 different raptors everywhere? That's pretty much where I'm at. All right, so Alicia says I have a metal 5 shelf where I attach lights to the bottom. Yes, Alicia, I'm going to talk about that for sure. It is definitely one of the things that I will discuss. So lumens. Let me talk about lumens. I had to make notes because I don't want to mess this one up. Lumens are a unit of measurement that quantifies how much a light source emits. Watts, on the other hand, refers to a measurement of power consumption, not necessarily light output. They are not the same. So you want to make sure that that is very clear up front. Lumens is your important part of it. Watts is really how much expense. Lumens is light output. Watts is how much it's going to cost you, basically, in simple terms. If you go online, like I said, you're going to find a wide variety of good, bad, ugly. Buy this one because they pay me money. Buy this one because they don't pay me money. So you're going to find a lot. See, I told you. This is Max. I told you I'd be joined by cats tonight. There are lots of grow light information, like I said earlier, specific to cannabis growing, but that is going to be specific to planting and harvesting indoors. For LED specific, they talk about blue lights and red lights. And the blue lights is for vegetation and the red lights is for flowering. If you're only growing seeds indoors for seedlings to plant outside, blue lights are all you need as far as an LED is concerned. But if you're starting indoors, you also want to know your frost dates. Frost dates. If I could put an asterisk there, I totally would, because I get asked all the time, I'm in zone whatever, when do I start this? Your zone is not as relevant as your frost dates when it comes to annuals. Super important right there. And I know it might be controversial. Some people might be saying, Mary, everybody tells me that my zone is more important. I'm here to tell you, as a seed starting lady, person, whatever, your frost dates are more important, because I need to know what my last frost date is to determine when I'm going to start my seeds indoors. Whether that's 2 weeks before my last frost date, whether it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks before my last frost date. So here it's March 12th. If I want to start my seeds 4 weeks before my last frost date, I'm going to do that around February 12th. Okay, so we're talking about Valentine's Day here. For me personally, if I want 4 weeks before my last frost date, if I want to start seeds indoors, there is zero reason for me to start something January 1st if I should be starting it the middle of February. So super important if you want to understand that. Baker Wannabe, super important as always, because I had a customer ask me, when should I start this? And I said, well, it depends on your frost date. Turns out they were in zone 10. They were in South Florida. If they had specified their specific area that they were in, I would say, don't worry about your frost dates. I have a plan specifically for South Florida gardeners. You're in Arizona. If you don't have a frost date, then your planting region is completely different than mine, and maybe you don't need to start seeds indoors. You're talking about growing microgreens or something inside, and I will discuss that as well. So your frost dates are important, because if you come to me and you say, Mary, when do I plant this? I'm going to say, where are you located? Because I need to know where you're located in order to determine when to plant. If you are intending to grow more seedlings, a larger light is important. So let me get to talking about specific lights. This is, okay, let me tell you this right now. This is not specifically something that I recommend, but this is something that I have, and this is something that I have tried. This is called a Flora Growing grow light. This is a low energy agricultural light. Super simple and super easy. An Oasis garden well, that sounds kind of cool. So this is super simple from Hydro Farm, and I don't even know that they necessarily have this available as well. But this is a fluorescent light, but it's a very small output. It's a single ballast, it's called. And you know what? I totally forgot the little gadgets that I have. So I mentioned to you earlier about adjusting the light based on your plant height. So if your plant is starting to grow, you want to make sure you lift up your light. And I have these little doohickeys, I'm going to say doohickeys, that you can adjust the actual light. You can see this right here. The ballast has a loop on either side. And all you need is the little toggles that you can pull on either side that lift that light up. Super easy and super simple. I will say this is not my favorite because it's just not. I found something that worked really good for me. And again, I'm not necessarily promoting these. They don't pay me. I'm just saying that this is something that I've used and this is something that I like. This is a T5 fluorescent grow light. Hangs from the ceiling. I actually hang it from either a grow tent or a bracket that I have installed. I don't necessarily hang it from the ceiling. So if you can see this, I know it's backwards. Sorry, I'm on Facebook or I'm on YouTube Live and they're not really helpful with that. So this is a T5 fluorescent light. You can see right here, it has the little hangers for your toggles. And it also has 2 light switches. It's got 4 bulbs and it's 2 foot wide. So you can actually use just the 2 here with 1 light switch, or you can use all 4 with 2 light switches. I really like this. This sits on a shelf. You can attach it to the bottom side of that metal rack that was mentioned earlier. That's what I do. I use what's called a baker rack. It is a metal rack that you can put 5 different shelves on, and this is super reliable. It is not super expensive to purchase, and you can attach this to the underside of each shelf. Super easy, super simple, and you don't have to spend a ton of money on it. And that rack, if it's got 5 shelves on it, you can grow a massive amount of seedlings. But you can also just grow a massive amount of seedlings under a single light. You can rig this up in your own garage to cover your seedlings. You could grow at least 50 seedlings underneath this one. Small seedlings, because once they get bigger, you're going to need more space. But this is a fantastic starter. And again, nobody pays me to share this information. I'm not sharing any affiliate links or anything. This one in particular is something that I have used multiple times and it has worked really well for me. So you can check it out online. I'm not giving you any kind of links to share it. It's just something that I have used personally and I have had success using it. Basic items that you need to grow indoors are a seed starting tray, because if you're growing indoors, you want something to capture any of the water. You need growing medium. I use coconut coir, super easy also. You can find it at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. and seeds, obviously, and a light source. Basic. You don't need to spend a fortune on growing indoors. The optional stuff would be a fan to circulate the air and a metal rack, as mentioned earlier in the video. I don't know how much this costs. I have purchased these about 3 years ago, so the price might have changed. So you'll have to look it up online. It's VivoSun or VivoSun. I also have 2 grow tents from the same company, and they've been great. As far as grow tents go, again, if you go online, you can find grow tents as low as $100. You can find kits as much as $800. You don't need all that stuff. You don't need a grow tent, but it depends. I've got cats, and I've got debris, and I've got all of the things going on. So if you want to keep all of your growing in a single contained area, a grow tent might be a possibility for you. So you can check them out online. They've got a lot of great information. Again, nobody pays me for this information, and I don't necessarily recommend one brand over another. I'm just telling you that this is what I've used and this is what has worked. I have a grow tent that would fit in the closet, and I have a grow tent that fits in a large room. So there's anywhere in between there that you can do. Is there a grow light that is adjustable? No, but there are specific sizings, and then there are attachments that are adjustable to adjust the height of the grow light, but not the length of the grow light, if that makes sense. This one in particular, like I said, it has an option to either do only 2 lights or all 4 lights. So that's kind of adjustable, but the actual height of the light, you're going to have to adjust yourself. And for me personally, I really like the toggle situation. It is a string essentially and a little toggle on either side, and you can pull the thing and make it go higher. You can push the little gadgets on either side and make it lower. So I'll share that information with you at a later time. Once I get my grow tent set up, I will share how all this works out. But it's almost Christmas and life is crazy, and I'm gonna take some time for myself, so I did not get my grow tent set up yet. Besides, it's December. I don't usually set up my grow tent till January. But I do have some videos on Facebook that are live that you can see my actual grow tent and how I work that out. All right, so lumens. Let's talk about that real quick before we go into some of the more specifics. Lumens, generally speaking, hey Denise, thanks for joining me. Generally speaking, lumens, you need 2,500 per square foot for seedlings, but I've also seen anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 lumens for vegetation. So you don't necessarily want to be swapping out lamps or bulbs. This one in particular comes with a 6500K lamp. Perfect. You can use this for seed starting. You can use this for vegetation. You'll need, you'll see, like I said, info on LEDs specifically for blue lights versus red lights. If you're not growing to flowering, you only need that blue light. So you really don't need the optional of the red light, blue light as far as LED is concerned. This is why you don't have to spend a fortune on growing seeds to transplant height to go outside. We're not talking about growing a full plant to harvest indoors. For indoor seed starting, seedlings should have 12 to 16 hours of light. Now, here's the thing. You can plug it and unplug it and be fine. You can also buy a timer to where you set it and you plug it in and you set it to turn on at a certain time and turn off at a certain time. You can buy that stuff at Home Depot. You don't even need to buy anything specific, but you can buy it online as well. Totally fine. They make them for all sorts of things. It's literally just a timer for your lights to go on and off. Herbs and greens really only need 8 to 10 hours of light. So if you're growing greens indoors for harvesting, then yeah, you're gonna wanna need a little more of maybe a larger setup. I can definitely grow some awesome greens indoors. If it's 30 degrees outside or 29 degrees outside, like it's gonna be tonight, I can grow some greens indoors under this light, no problem. And I only need to leave it on for 8 hours a day because greens really only need 6 to 8 hours a day anyway. So in that sense, I can grow something to harvest. We're more like talking about peppers and tomatoes because those are the varieties that take longer to mature. So oftentimes those are the varieties that people are growing indoors from seed to transplant out. Seedlings. Let's talk about spacing your light for your seedlings. Seedlings should be 4 to 12 inches away from your light. You're going to want to manage this and look at it regularly because LEDs can be higher than your seedling, whereas fluorescence should be a little lower than your LED. So, play with it. You want to make sure that you're not burning your plants. You're going to want to make sure that you're not getting leggy plants. If you're growing outside, say, for example, you're growing outside in a garage. My garage might be moderate temperature, but if your garage is very cold, then you might consider a seedling mat, a heat mat. You want to manage your not just your ambient temperature, but you want to manage your soil temperature. Super important as well because seeds typically germinate best at 70 degrees. So if your ambient temperature outside is 30 degrees, it's going to be a little harder for your seedlings to germinate if the soil is cold. So there's so many different factors. And all this information is available at marysheirloomseeds.com, but I kind of wanted to share a couple of extras when I'm talking about lighting because it's not just plant your seeds, pop a light on it, you're good to go, and it's going to grow. So there's more factors involved. Prior to germination, I set my lights to 4 to 6 inches. Post germination, my lights are 6 inches or more away from my seedling. So something to consider, you don't want it too close to your seedling, you don't want it to burn, but you don't want it so far away that it's going to be leggy. For LEDs, typically you can move it further away because that light is stronger. We already talked about that earlier, but I'm adding that as well. So that is the basics of indoor lighting and seed starting indoors. Again, I've got so much information available at marysheirloomseeds.com, but the question posted to me was lumens and watts, what's the difference and what do I need to know? So today's topic was grow lights and a couple tips to growing or seed starting indoors. We're not talking about growing indoors from seed to harvest. It's specifically about seed starting indoors for transplant. There is so much information available out there. There's only so much time in the day for me to share this information with you. If you enjoyed my video, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share this information with your friends. If they are new to growing, this could be just like mind-blowing, like, oh my gosh, I've never heard of this before. If they're veterans of growing, they might be like, Marianne, whatever. I've already been there, done that. So either way, I want to be able to share helpful information for you. If this is good, if this is great, let me know. If you have questions and you're watching this video and it's not live, you can always send me an email. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com, and I do try to answer your questions as often and quickly as possible. Yes, there are so many different factors. One thing I didn't mention is there are also under-the-counter lights available. Crazy, right? So I was shopping online today to give you an idea of what also might be available to you, and I found some lights that were $8 and $15. And I'm going to try them out because I've got a space in my laundry room. Now, when I mention factors about seed starting, whether you're going to start them on a shelf or whether you're going to start them in a tent, we now have 4 cats. And I know for a fact that at least 2 of them will eat my plants. So I need to find a place that is away from the cats that I can start seeds and that's not in my kitchen. So under the counter storage, there are strips of LED grow lights that you can purchase. Like I said, they're $8 to $15. There's 2 different options, and that's per shelf, I guess you would say. And I'm going to try those. I've never tried them before, So it's not something I can say, yes, it'll work, or it definitely won't work. But I also want to share with you what will work. Just like lots of the experiments that I try here on my property, I want to be able to share more helpful information for you. So there are options for you. If you don't have a massive space, maybe you just want to be able to grow a very small container of seedlings to be able to transplant outside. Maybe it's just 2 weeks or 4 weeks that you have to start seeds indoors before you transplant outside. There are even under the counter options for you for LED lights that might work to grow seedlings. So tomorrow I'm going to start those seedlings, and I'll share with you my little setup in pictures. I'll post it here on my YouTube channel in the community section, and I'll also share it on my Facebook page so that you can see it as well. That's it. I try to be helpful. I am Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds signing off. Oh, Baker, I almost forgot. I'm so glad you just commented. So Baker Wannabe said, what about growing microgreens indoors? This one right here, if you have a shelving unit that will fit a 2-foot unit, this is fantastic. This will grow a massive amount of microgreens that at a very inexpensive price, because I don't remember this being super expensive. However, as I mentioned earlier, there's the counter storage. It definitely depends on how large of a microgreen setup that you're going to do. Now, when I usually do microgreens, it's a 10-inch by 20-inch container. I can fit 2 of those under this ballast. And if I had multiple shelves, say I use what I call a baker rack, which has 5 shelves. If I had 5 of these, I could probably put 5 different racks and 5 different containers of, actually, I could put 2 per shelf, which is 10 trays of microgreens under 5 different lights and get a very good harvest. You want to make sure that you have proper ventilation, because one person said on my Facebook post about growing microgreens or fodder for your animals that they always had mold. 9 times out of 10 is because your ventilation is not good. If you have a too humid environment, or if you plant your seeds too dense, you will have mold. So keep that in mind. If you want to grow microgreens, spread your seeds out a little more, give them a very good circulation, add a fan, super important to add a fan if it's too humid in your area, and give it a good light. Now I answered your question. Alrighty, everybody, that is it for me. I am Mary at Mary's Heirloom Seeds signing off. I hope you enjoyed my video on grow lights and a couple tips about starting seeds indoors. I will have a lot more information going forward. Next Thursday is the day after Christmas. I will probably be live, not 100% sure, but I hope I will. And I will be sharing information about our Plant for Pollinators Month, which is January. So I am looking forward to it. If you've got any questions, like I said earlier, send me an email. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com, and I do actually answer your email. Thanks for joining me, everybody, and happy planting.